Hello, my gorgeous little chaos makers. It's your favorite troublemaking princess, Sissy Princess, back with a story so wild, so intimate, and so blush-worthy that you're going to feel like you're right there with me. Today, I'm sharing the night that changed everything. The night I didn't just try on clothes. I became someone entirely new, someone delicate, soft, playful, and completely hers. So grab a cozy blanket, maybe a fan for those moments that'll make you sweat from second-hand embarrassment, and let's dive into the madness together. It all started like any normal evening. I was at my best friend's place, laughing at dumb memes, scrolling through my phone, eating snacks like nothing was unusual, when suddenly she stopped, a serious look crossing her face. That look, yes, the one that makes your stomach flip and your heart skip a beat, made me freeze. "I need your help with something," she said, "but promise me you won't freak out." Naturally, I nodded, because what else could I do? My curiosity was already burning. And then she handed me a big, soft clothes bag. At first, I thought it was a prank, maybe some ridiculous gift, or something she'd later laugh at. But the moment I unzipped it, my heart nearly stopped. Inside were her clothes. Not just a few outfits. I'm talking her dresses, skirts, silky tops, delicate lingerie, soft stockings, tiny heels, and even a little silky robe I'd only ever admired from afar. My hands trembled as I touched the fabrics. Soft, smooth, delicate, foreign and forbidden all at once. My eyes went wide, and I laughed nervously, trying to hide the mix of panic and excitement that was bubbling inside me. She leaned closer, her eyes twinkling with mischief and something softer beneath it, and whispered, "I want you to wear them tonight. I want you to be me, just for a while." My stomach flipped like a roller coaster, and my cheeks instantly turned crimson. I tried to laugh, to protest, but my pulse was racing. I'd always been curious about dressing up, about what it would feel like to be soft, delicate, and girly. But never did I imagine it would be like this. So close, so real, so intimate, and completely under her control. She handed me a small note with instructions. Pick an outfit that feels right, and don't panic. My fingers shook as I sifted through silks, laces, frills, and soft pastel fabrics. I finally picked a pale pink dress with tiny ruffles along the hem and a delicate bow at the waist. It looked impossibly small, and yet, I felt a thrill that made me tremble. As I slid it over my head, the transformation began immediately. My shoulders softened, my posture shifted, and the reflection in the mirror made me gasp. It wasn't me anymore. Or maybe it was just a softer, more delicate version. A version that belonged to her. She giggled softly behind me. "You look incredible," she whispered, teasing, but with a hint of pride. My cheeks flamed hotter than I thought possible. She handed me delicate stockings, tiny heels, and a silky little necklace. Every piece made the transformation more real. My knees wobbled in the heels, and she steadied me, her fingers brushing mine ever so slightly. Each touch, each word, each glance made my heart pound faster, making me feel delicate, vulnerable, and thrillingly exposed. By the time I was fully dressed, I barely recognized the reflection staring back at me. Soft hair framing my face, a delicate dress clinging perfectly, stockings sliding smoothly over my legs, heels giving a gentle sway to my step. I looked like her. Or at least like a perfect blend of me and her. I felt a strange mix of panic, pride, and excitement. I didn't want to take it off. Not yet. I wanted to stay like this, feel this, be hers. Then she handed me a small clutch bag with delicate accessories inside. Tiny earrings, a bracelet, and a little sparkling hairpin. My hands shook as I picked a pair of pearl earrings and slid them in. She clapped softly. "Perfect," she whispered, brushing a strand of hair from my face. I could feel a shiver run down my spine. Every word, every gesture, every glance made me feel like I was hers tonight. And in that moment, I realized something shocking. I didn't just want to play. I wanted this. I wanted it more than I could ever admit. She guided me to the living room, dimming the lights slightly. I could feel her eyes on me as I walked, wobbling in the heels, trying not to trip. She giggled, "Careful, princess," and I almost fell laughing at myself. But inside, a fire was growing. This wasn't just about clothes. It was about surrender. About becoming someone else entirely. And every brush of her hand, every teasing smile, every whisper in my ear made it harder to remember who I was before this bag ever touched my hands. Then came the final touch, a silky robe to wear over the dress. My fingers trembled as I pulled it on, feeling it slide softly over the dress. It completed the transformation. Looking in the mirror, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was soft, delicate, playful, teasing, hers. Every step I took, every glance in the mirror, every tiny movement felt intoxicating. I laughed nervously, hiding my burning face in my hands, but she just whispered, "You're perfect, completely mine tonight." My heart raced. Mine. Completely hers. I felt a shiver run through me as the realization hit. This night wasn't just about dressing up, or curiosity, or fun. It was about surrendering. About letting her guide me, shape me, claim me in a way that made me feel alive, exposed, and thrillingly delicate all at once. And the most terrifying, exhilarating part? I wanted it. I wanted it more than I had ever wanted anything in my life. My reflection smiled back at me, blushing along with me, and I knew this was only the beginning. Once I was fully dressed, she clapped her hands softly and grinned at me. "There," she said, "now you're ready." My heart was racing so fast I thought it might burst out of my chest. I barely recognized the reflection staring back at me, soft, delicate, glimmering in her style, my body swaying slightly in the tiny heels, the silky dress sliding over my skin, stockings hugging my legs perfectly. Every inch of me screamed unfamiliarity, yet it felt natural, dangerous, intoxicating, and completely hers. She handed me a tiny purse, barely big enough for a lip gloss and a compact, and my fingers trembled as I took it. "You'll need this," she said teasingly. I opened it carefully and discovered a few small treasures she had slipped in, tiny hairpins, a dainty ring, and a small perfume bottle. The perfume smelled like sugar, flowers, and something secretly forbidden. She gestured for me to put a little on my wrists and behind my ears. The moment the scent touched me, my stomach fluttered. It was hers, her world, and I was inhaling it, letting it become mine too. She guided me to the living room again, where the lights were softer, warmer, almost magical. "Walk," she commanded softly. I wobbled slightly, and she laughed. "Careful, princess," she said, nudging me gently. I flushed and bit my lip, trying not to wobble too much, trying to act composed, but every tiny step was a mix of thrill and terror. Her eyes followed me closely, and I could feel her amusement, her pride, and something teasing in the way she watched me. I felt like a doll, delicate, beautiful, and completely hers to admire. Then came the mirror. She handed me a handheld one and gestured for me to face it. I froze. The reflection was mesmerizing. Soft hair, delicate lashes, gentle curves, lips glossed just slightly. I barely recognized myself, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. She stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "See? You're gorgeous. You were meant to look like this," she whispered, her voice low and teasing. My heart raced. I felt embarrassed, flustered, and incredibly excited. I wanted to hide, but I didn't. I wanted to melt under her gaze, to let her see every secret thrill I felt. Next, she guided me to sit on the edge of the couch. "Posture, princess," she teased. "Delicate. Soft. Like a lady." I wobbled a little in the heels, trying to find balance, but every movement made her giggle softly. "You're doing amazing," she whispered. "Just relax, follow me." Her hands brushed mine lightly as she adjusted my elbow, then my shoulders. Each touch sent shivers down my spine. I could feel my face heating with embarrassment and pleasure. This wasn't just about wearing her clothes anymore. It was about letting her mold me into a version of herself, one delicate gesture at a time. She handed me a pair of gloves, silky and soft, and I slipped them on carefully. They hugged my fingers perfectly, completing the look. I felt complete. Vulnerable, soft, exposed, and intoxicatingly delicate. She leaned closer, whispering, "You're mine tonight. Completely. Do you understand?" My cheeks burned, my heart pounding, and I nodded, barely able to speak. Mine. Completely hers. The words repeated in my head like a spell, making my pulse spike, making me feel both terrified and exhilarated at the same time. Then came the blush-inducing part, the final intimate detail. She pulled a small, silky panty from the bag. My fingers trembled as I took it. My mind raced, embarrassed, nervous, excited. "You have to wear these under your dress," she said softly. My face went scarlet. I tried to act casual, but the heat rushed to my cheeks, my pulse spiking like crazy. I quickly slipped them on, heart thudding, desperate to hide how flustered I was. She laughed softly at my reaction. "See? Not so scary, princess. You're doing beautifully." The combination of the outfit, heels, accessories, gloves, makeup, perfume, and this tiny intimate touch, it was overwhelming. My entire body buzzed with excitement, embarrassment, and pleasure. I felt like I had crossed a line I could never return from. I wasn't just wearing her clothes. I was stepping fully into her world, surrendering completely, and I loved it. She leaned closer, her hand brushing lightly over my arm, and whispered, "Tonight, you're mine. Every part of you." My knees went weak. My heartbeat was deafening. And in that moment, I knew, I didn't just want to play. I wanted to stay here, in this delicate, soft, intoxicating version of myself, with her guiding me, teasing me, claiming me entirely. She pulled me to my feet and guided me to twirl. The dress swirled beautifully, the heels giving me a delicate sway, my heart racing with each step. I laughed nervously, hiding my burning cheeks in my hands. But she whispered, "You look perfect. Just like mine." The words hit me like magic. Mine. Completely hers. And as the perfume clung to my skin, the silky fabric hugged my body, and her gaze followed every step I took, I realized something intoxicating. This wasn't just fun. This wasn't a prank. This was transformation. And I was hooked. She twirled me again, this time guiding my arms gently, her fingers brushing against mine. The silky dress floated around me like magic, soft and delicate, and I couldn't stop staring at myself in the mirror. Every step, every sway, made my heart race, my cheeks burn, and my pulse skyrocket. I was floating somewhere between excitement, embarrassment, and complete surrender. The world outside could vanish, because right now, in this moment, I was hers, completely, undeniably, deliciously hers. She stepped closer and whispered, "Now, let's perfect your posture, princess." I froze, knowing this would be intimate and exposing. She guided my shoulders back, adjusting my elbows gently. Each touch made my body tingle in a way I hadn't anticipated. I giggled nervously, biting my lip, trying not to flinch under her attention. But inside, I was melting. This wasn't just about looking beautiful. It was about feeling delicate, fragile, and completely hers, about letting her shape me with each careful gesture. Then she pulled out a small handheld mirror. "Look," she said softly, holding it up. I gasped. My reflection was intoxicating. Soft cheeks, delicate lips with a light gloss, long lashes, the curve of the dress perfectly hugging my body. I barely recognized myself. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and incredibly alive at the same time. She leaned close, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "You're breathtaking," she whispered. "Absolutely mine tonight." My cheeks burned hotter than ever, and I could barely breathe. Mine. Completely hers. The thought made my knees weak and my heart hammer in my chest. Next came the gloves. Silky, soft, almost impossibly delicate gloves that she guided me to slip onto my hands. They fit perfectly. I flexed my fingers experimentally, feeling the final piece of the transformation lock into place. I looked at myself in the mirror again and realized I felt whole, vulnerable, delicate, soft, and intoxicatingly beautiful. She stepped behind me, her hands brushing lightly over my shoulders, adjusting the dress slightly. Every touch sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't stop smiling nervously, trying to hide how flustered I was, but secretly loving every second of it. Then she did something that made my heart almost stop. She handed me a tiny, silky panty from the bag. My hands shook, and I felt my face flush violently. "This is the final step," she whispered. "You need to wear it under your dress." My stomach flipped. I nodded quickly, feeling heat rush to my cheeks, and slipped it on as fast as I could. I was embarrassed, nervous, but also thrillingly excited. She laughed softly at my reaction, a teasing, intimate sound that made me melt inside. "Perfect," she said. "See? Nothing to worry about." The combination of the dress, the heels, the stockings, the robe, the gloves, the accessories, the makeup, the perfume, and this final intimate detail, it was almost too much to handle. I was flushed, shivering, and incredibly aware of every inch of my body. I had crossed a line into something I couldn't take back. I wasn't just trying on her clothes, I was stepping fully into her world, surrendering completely to her guidance, her teasing, her control. And the thought made my heart pound and my cheeks burn hotter than ever. She guided me to the couch and had me sit delicately, adjusting my posture again. Each little movement, each glance in the mirror, each soft touch from her made my pulse race. I felt fragile, delicate, and entirely hers. I laughed nervously at how flustered I was, but I couldn't hide it. I wanted her to see it, to tease me, to enjoy this side of me that had been hiding all this time. She leaned closer, brushing her fingers across my arm. "Completely mine, princess," she whispered. My knees went weak, my heartbeat deafening. I nodded, unable to speak, but I didn't need to. She already knew. Then she had me stand again, guiding me through gentle twirls. The dress floated and swirled, the heels made me sway with elegance, the perfume clung to my skin, and I felt a rush I couldn't put into words. I was soft, delicate, playful, and teasingly hers. Every step made my heartbeat race, every glance in the mirror made my cheeks burn, and every touch from her made me melt inside. I realized then that this wasn't about curiosity, or fun, or play. This was about surrendering fully, letting her guide me, claim me, and watch me transform completely into the delicate, intoxicating version she wanted me to be. Her hands rested lightly on my shoulders as she whispered in my ear, "Tonight, you belong to me, princess." My breath caught. The words sent shivers through me. Mine. Completely hers. I wanted to collapse into her, to let her guide every step, every gesture, every heartbeat. I wanted to stay like this forever, soft, delicate, beautiful, and hers. Every teasing laugh, every whispered word, every intimate glance made me feel intoxicated, flushed, and dangerously excited. This night had already changed me, and I knew it wasn't over yet. She guided me to the center of the room, where the soft lighting made everything feel dreamlike, almost magical. I could feel my heart racing in my chest, my cheeks burning hotter than ever. Every step in the tiny heels was a delicate balance between wobbling and elegance, and I could feel her eyes on me, following every movement. She leaned close, her breath warm against my ear, and whispered, "Delicate, princess, soft, graceful, just like me." My knees wobbled slightly, and I bit my lip nervously, trying to steady myself, but every word, every glance, every teasing smile made me melt inside. Then she pulled me toward the mirror again, a full-length one this time, and gestured for me to face it. I froze as my reflection came into view. The dress clung perfectly to my curves, the stockings made my legs look long and delicate, the heels gave me just the right sway, and the soft blush on my cheeks made me look like a completely different person. I could barely recognize myself, yet it felt so right. She stepped behind me, adjusting the hem of the dress, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "You're stunning," she whispered, her voice soft and teasing all at once. My breath caught, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Next came the delicate task of adjusting my gloves. Silky, soft, and almost impossibly delicate, they hugged my hands perfectly. She guided me, slipping them over my fingers and smoothing the fabric. Each touch made me shiver in delight, my pulse racing uncontrollably. She stepped back and studied me carefully, a smile of mischief and pride on her face. "Perfect," she said softly. "You're exactly how I imagined." My heart thumped so hard I thought it might burst. Every inch of me was trembling, flushed, and entirely hers. She handed me a small clutch once again, filled with tiny accessories. A delicate hairpin sparkled between my fingers, a little ring slipped onto my finger, and a bracelet encircled my wrist. Each piece felt like it was completing the transformation, like I was shedding my old self and stepping fully into this new, delicate, intoxicating version of me. She laughed softly, a teasing, intimate sound that made me squirm with excitement and embarrassment. "Mine," she whispered, brushing her hand across my arm. "You're completely mine tonight." My knees wobbled, my face burned, and I felt a delicious thrill run through me. Then came the perfume. She sprayed a tiny amount on her wrist and had me lean in to inhale. The scent was floral, sweet, and slightly forbidden. It clung to me like a spell, intoxicating and addictive. Every time I breathed it in, I felt closer to her, more delicate, more hers. She guided me in tiny movements, tilting my head, adjusting my posture, and every glance I caught in the mirror made my heart race faster. I was no longer just wearing her clothes, I was becoming her. Soft, delicate, teasing, and entirely under her control. She pulled me closer, brushing a finger lightly over my arm. "Tonight, princess," she whispered. "You belong to me. Every part of you." My cheeks flamed red, my pulse hammering in my ears. I wanted to melt into her arms, to let her guide every step, every gesture, every breath. The intensity of the moment was overwhelming. I laughed nervously, hiding my face in my hands, but she pulled me gently back and smiled. "I love how flustered you are," she teased. "It suits you perfectly." Then she did something that made my heart almost stop. She handed me a tiny satin panty from the bag. My fingers trembled as I took it, and my face turned crimson. "This is the final step," she whispered softly. "Wear it under the dress." I felt my stomach flip, embarrassment and excitement mingling in a dizzying swirl. I quickly slipped it on, my cheeks burning, my heart racing. She giggled softly at my flustered expression. "See? Nothing to be afraid of," she said. Her voice carried teasing pride and a hint of something deeper, something that made me feel completely hers. The combination of the dress, heels, stockings, gloves, accessories, perfume, makeup, and this final intimate detail made me feel alive in a way I had never experienced. Vulnerable, delicate, exposed, and intoxicatingly hers, I shivered under her gaze. She guided me through gentle twirls and slow steps, showing me how to move with poise, how to sit delicately, how to hold myself in a way that made every part of me feel soft and beautiful. Every glance in the mirror, every brush of her hand, every whispered word sent my pulse racing faster and faster. Finally, she pulled me close, resting her hands lightly on my shoulders. "Completely mine, princess," she whispered, her lips near my ear. My breath caught. Mine. Completely hers. I wanted to collapse into her, to surrender fully, to let her guide me through every heartbeat, every gesture, every breath. My cheeks burned, my knees went weak, and I realized that this night had changed me. Not just the outfit, not just the playful transformation, but the way I felt, delicate, soft, teasing, and hers completely. And I knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning of a night I would never forget. She held my hands and guided me to the center of the room again, her touch light and teasing, sending shivers down my spine. Every glance, every brush of her fingers, made my heart hammer in my chest. I wobbled slightly on my heels, my cheeks burning hotter than I thought possible. She giggled softly at my nerves, leaning close. "Delicate, princess, soft, graceful, just like me," she whispered, and I felt myself melting under her gaze. I was hers tonight, completely, undeniably, and deliciously hers, and every nerve ending in my body was alive with anticipation. Then she pulled me in front of the mirror again. My reflection made me gasp. The dress hugged my curves perfectly, the stockings added a teasing length to my legs, the heels gave me a subtle sway, and the soft blush on my cheeks completed the transformation. I barely recognized myself. Her hands brushed my hair gently, adjusting strands that had escaped, and I felt exposed in the best way possible. "You're breathtaking," she murmured. Her words made my chest tighten. I felt delicate, vulnerable, and incredibly alive all at once. Mine. Completely hers. Next, she handed me the gloves again, silky and soft, and helped me slide them over my hands. The fabric hugged every curve, and I flexed my fingers experimentally. Each little movement, guided by her hands, made me feel more complete, more transformed, more hers. I shivered with every touch, every whisper, every laugh from her. She was studying me like a sculptor admiring their masterpiece, and I felt like I was melting into her hands. I had never felt so delicate, so beautiful, so intoxicatingly fragile in my life. Then she reached for the tiny clutch bag, pulling out a few small treasures. A sparkling hairpin, a delicate ring, and a dainty bracelet. Each piece slid onto me perfectly, completing the transformation. I was no longer just wearing her clothes, I was becoming her, or a version she had shaped entirely. I laughed nervously at my reflection, biting my lip, feeling every nerve in my body alive and humming. Her eyes followed mine, teasing and proud, and I realized that this wasn't just play. It was a surrender, a total immersion into a world that was hers, and now, mine too. She leaned closer, brushing her fingers lightly across my arm. Tonight, princess, you belong to me. Every inch, every heartbeat, every move. My pulse spiked uncontrollably. I nodded, cheeks burning, knees wobbling. The intensity of her gaze, the closeness, the teasing tone, it was intoxicating. I wanted to collapse into her arms, let her guide me completely, and surrender to the thrill of being her delicate little princess. Every flustered giggle, every breathless shuffle, every shy glance made me feel more alive, more exposed, more hers than I had ever felt in my life. Then came the satin panty from the bag, the final intimate touch. My hands trembled as I took it, my face heating instantly. She whispered softly, "Wear it under your dress, princess. This is the final piece." My stomach flipped. Nervousness, embarrassment, and excitement collided in a dizzying wave as I slipped it on. My face was hot, my pulse racing. She chuckled softly at my reaction. "See? You're doing perfectly," she whispered. Every tiny detail, every piece of clothing, every accessory, every touch made me feel intoxicated, fragile, and completely hers. She guided me through gentle twirls, showing me how to move with poise. The dress floated elegantly with every step, the heels made me sway delicately, the stockings added a teasing finish, and the gloves made every gesture feel refined. I couldn't stop staring at myself in the mirror. Each movement, each adjustment, each glance in her direction made me feel a rush of excitement and embarrassment. I was hers. Completely. And I wanted every second of it. Every teasing laugh, every whispered word, every soft touch made me melt further into this world she had created for me. Finally, she rested her hands lightly on my shoulders, her lips near my ear. "Mine. Completely mine, princess," she whispered. My knees went weak, my heart racing like mad. I wanted to collapse into her embrace, to let her guide every move, every breath, every heartbeat. The night had already changed me. Not just my look, but the way I felt, delicate, soft, playful, teasing, and entirely hers. I realized that I would never forget this night, this transformation, this intoxicating surrender. And deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. She guided me to the center of the room once again, her hands brushing lightly against mine as she positioned me just so. Every movement made my heart race, my cheeks burn, and my knees wobble in the tiny heels. "Delicate, princess," she whispered, her voice soft and teasing. "Graceful. Just like me." I trembled under her gaze, my entire body alive with anticipation, embarrassment, and excitement. I was hers tonight, completely, undeniably, and every nerve ending in my body was buzzing with the thrill of surrender. She stepped back and held up a full-length mirror. My reflection stole my breath. The dress hugged every curve, the stockings made my legs look impossibly long and delicate, the heels added the perfect sway, the gloves completed every gesture with soft elegance, and the subtle blush and lip gloss made me look magical. I barely recognized myself. Her hand smoothed a stray strand of hair from my face, and I shivered. "Breathtaking," she whispered, close enough that her breath tickled my cheek. My pulse skyrocketed. Mine. Completely hers. Then she handed me a tiny perfume bottle, just enough for a soft spritz. I applied it carefully to my wrists and behind my ears. The scent was intoxicating, floral, sweet, a little daring, and it clung to me like a spell. Every breath I took made my heart pound faster. Every movement made me feel lighter, softer, more delicate. She leaned close, adjusting my shoulders and elbows, her hands brushing mine ever so slightly. Each touch sent shivers down my spine. I was hers. Entirely. And I wanted it, more than I'd ever wanted anything. Next, she picked up the gloves again and slid them onto my hands, smoothing every crease, adjusting my fingers perfectly. They felt like a final seal on my transformation. Each little movement, guided by her, made me feel complete, delicate, and intoxicatingly fragile. I flexed my fingers experimentally, marveling at how something so small could make me feel so powerful, so exposed, so hers. I couldn't stop smiling nervously, hiding my flushed face in my hands, yet secretly craving every moment of her teasing guidance. Then came the clutch with its tiny treasures, a sparkling hairpin, a delicate bracelet, and a ring that glimmered in the soft light. I slipped each piece on, finishing the ensemble. The effect was stunning. I wasn't just wearing her clothes, I was stepping fully into the delicate, playful, intoxicating version of me that she had shaped with every touch, every word, every glance. My reflection smiled back at me, shy but flustered, delicate but confident, utterly hers. She stepped closer, brushing her fingers lightly across my arm. "Tonight, princess," she whispered, her voice low and teasing, "you belong to me. Every inch of you. Every heartbeat. Every movement." My heart raced uncontrollably, my cheeks hot, my knees trembling. I nodded, unable to speak, but I didn't need to. She already knew. I wanted to collapse into her arms, let her guide every gesture, every sway, every breath. The intensity of the moment was overwhelming, thrilling, and completely intoxicating. Then she handed me the satin panty, the final intimate piece. My hands shook, my face flushed instantly. "Wear it under your dress," she whispered softly. My stomach flipped. Nervousness, embarrassment, and excitement collided in a dizzying wave as I quickly slipped it on. My pulse thundered, my cheeks burned, and she chuckled softly at my reaction. "Perfect," she said, her voice teasing and proud. Every detail, the dress, the heels, the stockings, the gloves, the accessories, the perfume, the makeup, and this final intimate touch, made me feel completely transformed, delicate, soft, and hers. She guided me through slow, teasing twirls. The dress floated around me, the heels made me sway elegantly, the stockings highlighted my legs, and every movement, every glance in the mirror, every soft brush of her hand made me feel intoxicated, fragile, and fully hers. I couldn't stop staring at my reflection. I was hers. Completely. And I wanted every second of it. Every teasing laugh, every whispered word, every intimate gesture made me melt further into the world she had created for me. Finally, she rested her hands lightly on my shoulders, her lips near my ear. "Mine. Completely mine, princess," she whispered. My knees went weak, my heart racing like crazy. I wanted to collapse into her, to surrender fully, to let her guide every movement, every breath, every heartbeat. This night had changed me. Not just the way I looked, but the way I felt, soft, delicate, playful, flustered, and intoxicatingly hers. I realized, deep inside, that this was only the beginning. That this transformation, this surrender, this teasing, and this blush-worthy intimacy would stay with me forever. As she stepped back and smiled, I took a deep breath, finally letting myself admire the full transformation. Every detail, every touch, every whispered word had built me into this delicate, flustered, intoxicating version of myself. Soft, vulnerable, playful, and entirely hers. I blushed, giggled, and twirled once more, the room spinning slightly with excitement. And in that moment, I understood completely. I wasn't just wearing her clothes. I had become hers. She stepped closer, her hands lightly brushing against mine as she guided me to twirl slowly in the center of the room. The soft fabric of the dress floated elegantly around me, and I felt every sway in my tiny heels. My heart raced, my knees wobbled, and my cheeks were aflame with excitement and embarrassment. "Delicate, princess, soft, graceful, just like me," she whispered, her voice low and teasing. I could barely breathe, my entire body buzzing with anticipation and the thrill of surrender. I was hers tonight, completely, undeniably, intoxicatingly hers. Then she picked up the clutch with tiny accessories again. A sparkling hairpin, a dainty ring, and a delicate bracelet. My hands shook as I carefully added each piece. The hairpin slid perfectly into my soft hair, the ring glimmered on my finger, and the bracelet circled my wrist lightly. Each small touch completed the transformation. I wasn't just wearing her clothes anymore. I was becoming a delicate, intoxicating version of myself she had created. I couldn't stop staring at my reflection, flushed, nervous, and excited, a perfect blend of shy vulnerability and teasing confidence. Her fingers brushed lightly against my arm. "Tonight, princess, every part of you is mine," she whispered softly. I shivered, my heart hammering in my chest. Mine. Completely hers. I wanted to melt into her arms, let her guide every movement, every gesture, every breath. I laughed nervously, hiding my burning face in my hands, but she tilted my chin up and smiled. "I love how flustered you are," she teased, her voice a mix of mischief and pride. My cheeks burned hotter, my knees wobbled, and I realized I didn't want to hide anything from her. I wanted her to see every blush, every tremor, every delighted gasp I made. Then came the final intimate detail, the satin panty. My fingers trembled as I held it, my stomach flipping with nerves and excitement. "This is the final step, princess," she said softly. "Wear it under the dress." I flushed violently, my heart racing, and quickly slipped it on. The combination of embarrassment, anticipation, and thrill made me shiver. She laughed softly at my reaction, a teasing, intimate sound that made me melt inside. "Perfect," she whispered. "You're exactly how you should be, mine, delicate, and utterly gorgeous." She guided me through a series of slow, teasing twirls. The dress floated gracefully, the heels made me sway, the stockings highlighted my legs, and the gloves added elegance to every movement. Each step, each glance in the mirror, each brush of her hand made my body hum with delight. I was hers. Completely. Every teasing laugh, every whispered word, every intimate touch made me feel flushed, vulnerable, and utterly captivated by this delicate, intoxicating transformation. Then she guided me to the edge of the couch, instructing me to sit with poise. My knees wobbled, my pulse spiked, and every careful movement was watched by her sparkling eyes. "Delicate, princess, just like me," she teased softly. I laughed nervously, hiding my face in my hands, but secretly I was thrilled by every glance, every touch, every whispered word. This wasn't just about clothes or transformation. It was about surrendering fully, letting her guide me into a world I had only dreamed of, a world where I was soft, delicate, playful, and hers entirely. She leaned close, brushing her fingers lightly over my arm. "Completely mine, princess," she whispered. My heart raced uncontrollably. I wanted to collapse into her arms, to let her guide every step, every movement, every breath. The intensity of her presence, the teasing of her words, the intimacy of her gaze, it was overwhelming, thrilling, and intoxicating. I felt flushed, vulnerable, and completely alive in a way I had never imagined. I was hers. Totally, entirely, deliciously hers. Finally, she rested her hands gently on my shoulders, her lips near my ear. "Mine. Completely mine, princess," she whispered. My knees wobbled, my cheeks burned, and my heart raced like mad. I wanted to surrender fully, to melt into her arms, to let her guide every gesture, every sway, every heartbeat. This night had already changed me. Not just the way I looked, but the way I felt, soft, delicate, flustered, teasing, and completely hers. I realized deep inside that this was only the beginning of a night I would never forget. As she stepped back and smiled, I took a deep breath, finally admiring the full transformation. The dress, heels, stockings, gloves, accessories, makeup, perfume, and that final intimate detail had turned me into someone delicate, playful, flustered, intoxicating, and entirely hers. I twirled once more, flushed and giggling, the room spinning with excitement. In that moment, I understood fully. I wasn't just wearing her clothes. I had become hers, utterly, completely, and deliciously hers. She guided me to stand again, her hands lightly brushing against mine, and I could feel my pulse hammering in my chest. Every sway in my heels, every flutter of the dress, every tiny movement made me feel alive, delicate, and utterly hers. Delicate, princess, soft, graceful, just like me, she whispered teasingly. My knees wobbled, my heart raced, and my cheeks burned hotter than ever. I felt exposed, flustered, and intoxicatingly alive, completely consumed by the thrill of surrender. I was hers tonight, every heartbeat, every gesture, every trembling step. Then she stepped behind me, adjusting the dress lightly at my waist, smoothing a stray fold of fabric. The silk slid over my skin like a whisper. I shivered under her touch, unable to hide how sensitive I had become. My reflection in the mirror showed someone I barely recognized. Soft, delicate, playful, intoxicating. I laughed nervously, hiding my flushed face in my hands, but she tilted my chin gently, forcing me to meet her gaze. Mine, she whispered softly. Completely mine. My stomach fluttered, my heartbeat raced, and I felt my knees threaten to buckle. I wanted to melt completely into her hands, to let her guide every inch of me. She handed me the clutch once more, filled with tiny sparkling accessories. A hairpin glittered between my fingers, a delicate ring slipped onto my finger, and a fragile bracelet encircled my wrist. Each piece added the final delicate touches, completing my transformation. I wasn't just wearing her clothes anymore. I was becoming the soft, playful, intoxicating version of myself that she had imagined, shaped with each whisper, each glance, each teasing smile. I blushed, giggling nervously at my reflection, feeling both vulnerable and thrilled beyond measure. Her hands brushed lightly across my arm. Every inch of you tonight belongs to me, she whispered. My pulse skyrocketed. I wanted to collapse into her arms, let her guide every gesture, every movement, every heartbeat. Her closeness, her teasing voice, the soft weight of her hands, everything overwhelmed me with sensation. I shivered, my cheeks hot, my knees weak. I was hers. Completely. And I wanted it. More than I had ever wanted anything. Every nervous laugh, every flustered glance, every breathless step made me feel more alive, more delicate, more hers. Then came the satin panty, the final intimate detail. My fingers trembled as I held it, my stomach flipping with nerves and anticipation. This is the final step, princess, she whispered softly. Wear it under your dress. I flushed violently, my heart racing uncontrollably, and quickly slipped it on. The combination of excitement, embarrassment, and thrill made me shiver. She giggled softly at my reaction. Perfect, she whispered. You're exactly how you should be, mine, delicate, and utterly gorgeous. She guided me through slow, teasing twirls again. The dress floated gracefully, the heels made me sway elegantly, the stockings highlighted my legs, and every brush of her hand made me tremble with delight. Each glance in the mirror, every whispered word, every subtle touch reinforced my transformation. I was hers. Completely. And I wanted every second of it. Every blush, every flustered giggle, every heartbeat, every intoxicating shiver made me melt further into her world, further into her hands. Finally, she rested her hands lightly on my shoulders, lips near my ear. Mine. Completely mine, princess, she whispered. My knees buckled slightly, my cheeks burned, my heartbeat deafening. I wanted to surrender fully, to melt into her arms, to let her guide every movement, every sway, every delicate step. This night had changed me forever. Not just the way I looked, but the way I felt, soft, delicate, playful, flustered, intoxicatingly hers. I realized deep inside that this was only the beginning. She stepped back and smiled, watching me twirl once more, flushed, giggling, and full of playful embarrassment. The combination of the dress, heels, stockings, gloves, accessories, perfume, makeup, and that final intimate detail had completed my transformation. I wasn't just wearing her clothes, I had become her, or at least a version of myself she had shaped completely. Soft, delicate, teasing, flustered, and intoxicatingly hers. I laughed nervously, my face hot, and spun one more time. I was hers. Totally, completely, and deliciously hers. The room felt warmer, softer, almost magical. Every glance I caught in the mirror made me shiver. Every touch from her, every whisper, every playful laugh deepened my transformation. I had never felt so alive, so delicate, so vulnerable, so thrillingly intoxicating in my life. I was hers tonight, entirely, undeniably, and with every step, every sway, every blush, I knew this surrender, this playful intimacy, this delicate transformation would stay with me forever. She stepped closer, her hands brushing softly against mine as she guided me to move gracefully across the room. Every tiny sway in the heels, every flutter of the dress, every subtle movement made my heart pound faster, my knees wobble, and my cheeks burn hotter than ever. "Delicate, princess, soft, graceful, just like me," she whispered teasingly. Her voice sent shivers down my spine. I felt exposed, flustered, and intoxicatingly alive, every nerve ending tingling. I was hers tonight, entirely, undeniably, and completely captivated by the thrill of surrender. Then she gently lifted my chin, making me look straight into her sparkling eyes. "Mine," she whispered softly. My pulse spiked, my cheeks flaring red. I wanted to melt into her arms, let her guide every step, every gesture, every heartbeat. Her closeness, the warmth of her hands, the teasing tone in her voice, it was overwhelming. I laughed nervously, hiding my burning face in my hands, yet secretly craving every second of her attention. Every word, every touch made me feel delicate, playful, and intoxicatingly hers. She handed me the clutch bag again, this time pulling out more tiny sparkling treasures, a new hairpin, a dainty ring, a delicate bracelet. My hands trembled as I carefully placed each item. The glittering hairpin sparkled perfectly in my soft hair, the ring hugged my finger delicately, and the bracelet circled my wrist like a final seal of transformation. I wasn't just wearing her clothes anymore. I was becoming a version of myself that she had shaped entirely, a soft, playful, intoxicating princess she could mold with her hands. I flushed, giggling nervously at my reflection, feeling both exposed and thrilled beyond measure. Her fingers brushed lightly across my arm. "Every inch of you tonight belongs to me," she whispered. I shivered, my heartbeat racing uncontrollably. I wanted to collapse into her arms, surrender completely, let her guide every gesture, every sway, every breath. The intensity of her presence, the intimate teasing in her words, the delicate pressure of her hands, it was almost too much. I felt fragile, vulnerable, alive, and completely hers. I was hers. Totally. And I wanted every second of it. Then came the final intimate piece, the satin panty. My fingers shook as I held it, my stomach flipping with nervous anticipation. "This is the final step, princess," she whispered softly. "Wear it under your dress." My cheeks flamed red, my pulse thundered, and I quickly slipped it on, a mixture of embarrassment, thrill, and delight flooding my senses. She chuckled softly at my reaction, the sound teasing and intimate, and I shivered. "Perfect," she murmured. "You're exactly how you should be, mine, delicate, and utterly gorgeous." She guided me through a series of slow, teasing twirls, her hands adjusting my posture lightly. The dress floated elegantly with each spin, the heels gave me a soft sway, the stockings highlighted my legs, and the gloves added sophistication to every gesture. Every movement, every glance in the mirror, every brush of her fingers made me tremble with delight. I was hers. Completely. Each blush, nervous giggle, and flustered breath made me feel more delicate, more vulnerable, more intoxicatingly hers. Finally, she rested her hands lightly on my shoulders, her lips near my ear. "Mine. Completely mine, princess," she whispered. My knees went weak, my heart raced, and my cheeks were on fire. I wanted to surrender fully, melt into her embrace, let her guide every sway, every gesture, every delicate movement. This night had already changed me forever, not just my look, but the way I felt, soft, delicate, playful, flustered, and intoxicatingly hers. Deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. She stepped back, smiling, watching me twirl one last time. Flushed, giggling, and full of playful embarrassment, I finally allowed myself to admire the full transformation. The combination of dress, heels, stockings, gloves, accessories, makeup, perfume, and that final intimate touch had completed me. I wasn't just wearing her clothes, I had become her, or at least a version she had created completely. Soft, delicate, playful, flustered, intoxicatingly hers. I laughed nervously, twirling again, feeling the room spin slightly with excitement and bliss. I was hers. Totally, completely, and deliciously hers. The air in the room felt warmer, softer, almost magical. Every glance in the mirror made me shiver, every touch from her deepened my transformation. I had never felt so alive, delicate, vulnerable, and thrillingly intoxicating in my life. I was hers tonight, entirely, undeniably, and with every step, every sway, every flush, I knew this playful, blush-worthy, intimate transformation would stay with me forever. She stepped closer, her hands brushing lightly against mine as she guided me to stand in the center of the room. Every sway in my tiny heels, every flutter of the dress, every nervous movement made my heart race, my knees wobble, and my cheeks flush hotter than ever. "Delicate, princess, soft, graceful, just like me," she whispered, her voice teasing and low. I felt exposed, flustered, and intoxicatingly alive. I was hers tonight, every heartbeat, every gesture, every trembling step belonged to her completely. Then she lifted my chin gently, forcing me to meet her gaze. "Mine," she whispered softly. My pulse skyrocketed, my stomach fluttered, my cheeks burning bright red. I wanted to melt into her arms, surrender fully, let her guide every movement, every gesture, every breath. Her closeness, the warmth of her hands, the teasing lilt of her voice, it was intoxicating. I laughed nervously, hiding my burning face in my hands, but secretly I wanted more. Every word, every touch made me feel delicate, playful, and utterly hers. She handed me the clutch one last time, pulling out tiny treasures, a sparkling hairpin, a dainty ring, and a delicate bracelet. My hands trembled as I carefully placed each piece. The hairpin glimmered in my soft hair, the ring hugged my finger delicately, and the bracelet circled my wrist like a finishing seal. I wasn't just wearing her clothes, I was stepping fully into the delicate, teasing, intoxicating version of myself she had shaped with each glance, each touch, each whispered word. I blushed and giggled at my reflection, feeling both exposed and thrilled beyond measure. Her fingers brushed lightly over my arm. "Every inch of you tonight belongs to me," she whispered softly. I shivered, my pulse racing uncontrollably. I wanted to collapse into her arms, let her guide every gesture, every sway, every soft movement. The intimacy, the teasing, the delicate weight of her hands, it was overwhelming. I was fragile, vulnerable, alive, and completely hers. I was hers. Totally. And I wanted every second of it. Then came the satin panty, the final intimate touch. My fingers trembled as I held it, my stomach flipping with anticipation and nerves. "This is the last step, princess," she whispered. "Wear it under your dress." My cheeks flamed, my heart racing, and I slipped it on quickly, excitement, embarrassment, and delight flooding every sense. She giggled softly at my reaction, the teasing sound sending shivers down my spine. "Perfect," she murmured. "You're exactly how you should be, mine, delicate, and utterly gorgeous." She guided me through a series of slow, teasing twirls. The dress floated elegantly, the heels gave me a soft sway, the stockings highlighted my legs, and every brush of her hand made me tremble with delight. Each glance in the mirror, every whisper, every subtle touch reinforced my transformation. I was hers. Completely. Every blush, every nervous giggle, every breathless step made me melt further into her world, further into her hands. Finally, she rested her hands gently on my shoulders, lips brushing my ear. "Mine. Completely mine, princess," she whispered. My knees weakened, my heart raced, my cheeks burned. I wanted to surrender fully, to melt into her embrace, let her guide every sway, every gesture, every delicate motion. This night had changed me forever, not just how I looked, but how I felt, soft, delicate, playful, flustered, and intoxicatingly hers. Deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. She stepped back, smiling, watching me twirl one last time. Flushed, giggling, full of playful embarrassment, I finally allowed myself to admire the full transformation. Dress, heels, stockings, gloves, accessories, makeup, perfume, and that final intimate detail had completed me. I wasn't just wearing her clothes, I had become her, or a version she had created entirely. Soft, delicate, playful, flustered, intoxicatingly hers. I laughed nervously, spinning once more, feeling the room spin slightly with excitement. I was hers. Totally, completely, and deliciously hers. The air in the room felt warm, soft, almost magical. Every glance in the mirror made me shiver, every brush of her hand deepened my transformation. I had never felt so alive, so delicate, so vulnerable, so intoxicatingly beautiful. I was hers tonight, entirely, undeniably, and with every heartbeat, every blush, every sway, I knew this playful, teasing, blush-worthy, intimate transformation would stay with me forever. She smiled at me, a mischievous, proud, tender smile, and whispered, "My princess. All mine." My heart fluttered, my cheeks burned, and I giggled softly, completely, delightfully hers. And in that moment, as the dress flowed, the heels swayed, the perfume clung, the makeup glimmered, and her hands guided me gently, I realized something magical. This wasn't just a game, a costume, or a playful experiment. It was a transformation of who I was, soft, delicate, teasing, flustered, and intoxicatingly alive. I was hers. Fully, utterly, completely hers. And I never wanted it to end.